Lytudiep. Hello everyone. After the time Diep was missing, Jame thought a lot. He wanted to choose Trang instead. And then Diep returned. He was very hesitant in his heart but still decided to choose Diep. But this time he wanted to build a new house for her. Build a new home. But Diep refused. Will there be a love triangle? And what is Diep's feelings? Today, let's follow this story. My name is Diep. And this is a story that began with deep sorrow but led me back to quiet hope. After everything life had taken from me, the trust, the safety, the home, I found myself wanting nothing more than to return to the one place that still felt real, the farm. Not because it was grand or beautiful, but because it held memories. It held pieces of me I thought I had lost. And most of all, it held James, the man who chose to love me even when I was broken. Even when I had nothing left to give. When I told James the first wanted to go back to the farm, he didn't ask why. He didn't try to stop me or question my decision. He simply looked at me with those warm eyes and said, "If that's what you want, I'll take you there today." Just like that. That was James, no grand promises. No dramatic declarations. Just presence. Just quiet loyalty. We arrived. And my heart sank. The place had aged, abandoned and quiet. Wrapped in overgrowth and silence. The house was worn down. The garden overtaken by weeds. The furniture dust covered. My hands trembled as I stepped out of the car. I called out for Haki, the dog I once raised with so much love. Haki, I'm home. My voice echoed into emptiness. No bark. No familiar sound. Panic bloomed in my chest. James came up behind me, resting his hand gently on my shoulder. "Don't worry. If he doesn't come back tonight, we'll look for him tomorrow. I promise." I nodded, swallowing back tears. There was no pity in his voice, only understanding. We spent the day cleaning, dusting, sweeping, repairing, piece by piece. We brought the house back to life. James worked tirelessly beside me, carrying out broken furniture, finding lost items, patching holes in the walls. He found my old slippers under the bed and smiled like he had just discovered buried treasure. I couldn't help but laugh through the tears. That was how James was. He made even the smallest moments feel warm. Later, he left to get supplies. "I'll buy a new mat, some blankets, and anything else you need." When he returned, his shirt clung to him with sweat, his arms full of bags. "I may have bought too much," he grinned, "but I want you to feel comfortable again." That night, we had dinner together. Our first home-cooked meal in what felt like years. We sat facing each other at the old table. And James prayed before we ate. "Thank you, Lord, for this meal. And for bringing Diep home." My heart softened in ways I didn't think possible anymore. He didn't need to say he loved me. I could feel it in everything he did. After we ate, James asked if he could stay the night. "So you'll feel safe," he said. I agreed. And we lay side by side in the quiet. The air filled with the sounds of insects and distant thunder. He turned to me and asked, "How do you feel being back?" I didn't have to think. Happy. I just hope life will be peaceful from now on. I just want something simple, me, you, your mom, and Haki. He took my hand. That's all I want too. In the days that followed, we cleaned more, cooked together, restored the garden. I fed the chickens while he swept the kitchen. He even offered to build me a new house. But I said no. I'm used to this place. It just needs a little love. He nodded, accepting my wish without protest. Still, Haki didn't return. Each night, I'd wait, listening, hoping to hear the familiar tapping of his paws. James comforted me, promising that if Haki didn't come home soon, we'd go look for him. He told me how he had visited the farm while I was away, how Haki had become thinner, then started eating again, then eventually disappeared. Maybe he's just out wandering, but we'll find him. And then there was a moment, a quiet, Intimate moment as we sat by the old fireplace, our hands accidentally brushing, our eyes meeting. James looked away, then softly muttered, "I've been thinking. Maybe one day I'll ask you to marry me. But not now. You've just come back. I don't want to overwhelm you." I didn't respond. I just leaned my head on his shoulder, letting silence speak what words couldn't. For the first time in years, I felt safe. The next morning, we woke early. James went to buy more supplies, pillows, mats, simple things we needed. I stayed behind and prepared breakfast, watered the remaining plants, fed the animals. The air smelled of fresh earth and sunlight. The house was beginning to feel like home again. I caught myself smiling, and for once, it didn't feel forced. When James returned, we ate together again. He talked about how long it had been since he felt this peaceful. We didn't need much, just a quiet life. Some chickens, some garden vegetables, and each other. We spoke of the future like it wasn't so scary anymore. That night, I watched him as he got ready to sleep. He was still dirty from the day's work, but I didn't care. He looked at me and smiled. "Tired but content. I don't want you to stay here alone. Not tonight." We lay down together in the soft glow of the lantern. My head rested on his arm, his fingers gently brushing my shoulder. "I'm not going anywhere," I whispered. "Neither am I," he replied. And in that moment, beneath the worn roof of our weathered little home, love didn't need to be loud or poetic. It was steady. It was patient. And it was real. After all the pain, after all the suffering, I finally believed it. I was home, and I was loved.
Wow, đây là một cặp xoài. Wow, đây là đây là một cặp xoài. Wow.
power in Jada.